If I am a star, the people made me a star.
Marilyn.
Marilyn Monroe.
Like to state here and now, fame is fickle.
Marilyn.
Marilyn Monroe.
I give you the two most exciting words in the modern dictionary. Marilyn Monroe!
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the All Things Marilyn podcast. My name is Scott Fortner, Marilyn Monroe historian, collector, and owner of the Marilyn Monroe Collection.
And I'm Elisa Jordan, author, founder of LA Woman Tours, and I'm also a Marilyn Monroe historian.
Welcome to 2026, Elisa. I know it's early February, but here we are. This is our first podcast this year.
I know.
It's been a little bit, but you and I have had some family issues that we've needed to deal with, our parents needing some help with a few things, so we had to take a bit of a break, but we are back stronger than ever in this Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday year.
Yeah. Life is what happens when you're making other plans, as John Lennon once said.
Absolutely. This episode of the All Things Marilyn podcast is going to focus on all things Marilyn turning 100. This is a huge year for Marilyn. There's many things that are happening all around the world. There are exhibitions that are taking place. There are new books that are coming out. LA has huge celebrations that are being planned for her birthday, and we have some excellent guests coming up this year. We're going to talk about all of that on the podcast today.
I'm really excited about these exhibits because they're all over the world, which shows you that Marilyn is global. And I'm really excited for you because you are one of the main contributors for some of these big exhibits. Why don't you share the details because this is your area?
I'm excited for me too, just to be honest and open. I am participating in some major exhibits this year. There's going to be an exhibit in LA, an exhibition in London, and also in Paris. And each of these are in world-class venues, all in honor of Marilyn for her 100th birthday. So if we start in Los Angeles, that exhibition is going to be at the Academy Museum. And this will be the first time that they're representing and honoring Marilyn. And what a better time to do it than her 100th birthday. That exhibit is going to run the 31st of May through the 28th of February 2027. So that's a pretty long exhibition. In Paris, the Cinematheque Museum is doing an exhibit on Marilyn, and that's going to run April 8th through July 26th. And then finally, in London, the National Portrait Gallery is also honoring Marilyn with an exhibition, and that one will run June 4th through September 6th. And items from my collection will be at all three of those exhibitions. Like you, I'm really excited that Marilyn is going to be honored globally this year for her birthday.
Really quick, let's talk about the London one because Marilyn was actually in London to film The Prince and the Showgirl. So it makes sense that London would have an exhibit for her. And I know you're going to London and you've already scouted out some locations for your series In Her Shoes, but can you give us any insight as to what you'll be up to when you're there?
I've scouted out some new locations. I've already done quite a few In Her Shoes posts for Marilyn when she was in London, and people just really seem to love those. But yeah, I've actually discovered some new locations. And so I'll be filming in London again when I go back for the exhibition. And my Prince and the Showgirl costume will actually be on exhibit in London. So they're focusing on Marilyn's time when she was in the UK to film The Prince and the Showgirl. So that's pretty exciting.
It hasn't opened yet, but are you allowed to share what you're going to be sharing at the Academy in LA?
I can give a little bit of insight. The latest big addition to the collection, which was Marilyn Monroe's boots from the Misfits, those will be on exhibit at the Academy. And the black cocktail dress I owned, that Marilyn owned, that's going to be on exhibit there at the Academy as well. The highlight at the Cinematheque Museum will be Marilyn's evening cape from the East of Eden premiere. So fans in Paris will get to see that in person.
Were you asked for specific items or did you decide what goes where?
There was a whole inventory of artifacts and items that was sent to each location, and each location selected what it was that they were interested in. Unfortunately, there were pieces that all three locations wanted, so decisions had to be made around what would go where. Either way, though, all three exhibitions are going to be really amazing and incredible and give fans an opportunity to see Marilyn both in her private life and then also in her public world.
That sounds really exciting. I'm being a bit of a nerd here, but I'm really excited that she's getting some world-class exhibits.
We're in the right place to nerd out, aren't we?
Yes.
So let's switch gears and talk a little bit about Los Angeles and what's happening there. You are an LA native. You know a lot about Los Angeles and are somewhat of a historian when it comes to LA and architecture and just the history in general of Los Angeles. So speak to all these events that are happening in Los Angeles for Marilyn's 100th birthday.
Can I just say that when I was a little girl growing up in Southern California watching Marilyn Monroe movies, I had no idea that I would be involved in the planning of her 100th birthday. So this is a big geek out moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I'm really excited about and proud of. And we are kicking off the celebration here in Los Angeles, which is Marilyn's hometown, with my tour, which is going to be Thursday, May 28th, and it will be Marilyn Monroe sites and locations in Los Angeles. And this tour means a lot to me. I haven't given it since COVID, so it's been a while. But I started this tour in 2012, and it started because people were asking me about Marilyn Monroe and where they could find things. And I just thought, I'm going to make a classroom on wheels. And it really ended up changing my life because I started this tour. I've made some amazing friends. It's changed my career path, and I get to share it now with fans again. So we're going to go around LA in a bus, and we'll talk about where Marilyn grew up, places where she hung out, places where she lived, and just get to know Marilyn as a person and a human being. We are finalizing the details on all of these events, but on Friday, May 29th, you and I are doing an All Things Marilyn panel discussion at the Los Angeles Public Library starting at 1 p.m. You and I had Christina Rice on as a guest. She has invited us to speak at the LA Public Library because she works there. And this is a historic location. She has written books on Anne Dvorak and Jane Russell, and that's how we got to know her. This is really exciting because it's Marilyn's 100th birthday. It's also the 100th birthday of the library, and it's Marilyn's hometown. So there's a lot of synchronicity here, and I'm just completely nerding out over this. It's a gorgeous building. We are planning on having some guests for that as well, but we'll let you know when we get that finalized. The next day, Saturday, May 30th, we have two big events that are still being finalized. A lot of moving parts on that, but it's coming together. Sunday, May 31st, that is the Academy Museum opening day. And we're going to get a group together to go see that on the very day it opens. I am really excited to see that because you're a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Greg is a part of that. And there are going to be items that belong to another collector who has contributed items to that. We'll keep you in the loop on that and what time we'll be meeting there. Then there's finally Monday, Marilyn's actual birthday. We're part of the Marilyn Remembered fan club, and the fan club is hosting a birthday celebration for Marilyn at a hotel. It's going to be beautiful, but the contract is not quite signed yet, so we're just going to wait and announce the name of it. They are excited to be hosting this birthday party, and we will have a birthday cake for her there.
More information coming on that. We don't want to announce it quite yet because it's not finalized, but we will say there is a connection to Marilyn, to this
Yes,
location.
we don't want to jinx it.
Yes.
But we are very excited.
Very excited. And Elisa, just so the listeners know, all of this information is posted on Marilyn Remembered's website. That's marilynrememberedfanclub.com. And we will be updating the website as more information gets confirmed and we get more of these events finalized. Be sure to stay tuned to that website. And you could always join the Marilyn Remembered Fan Club on Facebook, and we'll be providing updates there as well. Or you can follow Marilyn Remembered's Instagram page, which is at Marilyn Remembered, and find information there as well.
We'll be updating those pretty regularly as things get finalized.
Absolutely.
Another big element of the 100th birthday is books. There are several books coming out. We don't know all of them, but we know some of them, and they look really good.
You're right. There are a ton of books that are coming out in celebration of Marilyn's 100th birthday. Someone shared with me that they counted something up to 35 or 40 books that might be coming out this year. And that's on top of the hundreds and hundreds of books that are already out there about Marilyn. I've lost count the number of books that are out there, but it has to be in the thousands maybe by now.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Easily, right?
Over the years, definitely.
I am involved with some of the authors and assisting in some of these projects. And so we'll just start off by announcing the Joshua John Miller book, and that is the Marilyn Monroe Century. And of course, Joshua is the grandson of Bruno Bernard. Bruno Bernard was one of Marilyn's very early photographers, so he'll be coming out with a book on Marilyn. And of course, he was the son of Susan Bernard, and Susan was a good friend of Marilyn Remembered. She passed away a couple of years ago, but she spoke at memorials and spoke at club events, those types of things. The Bernard family has always been good to Marilyn Remembered. Another book that's coming out is a book by David Wills, and David is the author, of course, of 2 prior books on Marilyn, and those are titled Metamorphosis and Marilyn in the Flash. These are 2 top-notch books that all Marilyn fans must have. They're exceptional books. David is a perfectionist when it comes to the books that he does. And he doesn't just do books on Marilyn, he does books on other topics as well. Elisa, you've seen the book he did on Sharon Tate.
Yes, I own 2 copies of that book. I own one that is autographed by her sister Deborah Tate that I keep pristine, and then I own another one that I can just flip through. I also have both of his Marilyn books, which are a cornerstone of my collection. They are really good.
They're 2 of the most popular books in the fan base. Most people really love those books and treasure them. So this new book that he has coming out, I've helped him a little bit on that book. He's stepping into a little bit of a different realm this time. Not only is he publishing amazing photos of Marilyn from his collection, he's also doing some writing about Marilyn, and that's something new and something different for this particular book. It's really exceptional, and I'm excited about that book coming out too. A book that's already come out is from the Shaw family, and that book is called Dear Marilyn, The Unseen Letters and Photographs. Sam Shaw took many beautiful, incredible photos of Marilyn, and they were friends. And as you've mentioned in the past, Elisa, you enjoy the relationship that Marilyn had with her photographers. That takes it to a new level for you.
Yeah, and Sam Shaw is one of those. When she has a personal connection to the photographer, I feel like it comes through in the photos. So I really like the Shaw photos.
She was close to Shaw, and also even his daughters. She took them to the circus they've talked about.
They actually came to a Marilyn Remembered meeting once and told the circus story. And it was really fun for me. And it was so fun to hear because it's just a little personal story about Marilyn, what she was really like. There aren't many people left who actually knew Marilyn. So just getting that little insight into her was a treat.
There's another book that's coming out by the estate called Marilyn Monroe 100, the official centenary book, and that will be released this year also. They do have some excerpts of the book online on their website, and I was actually a little bit surprised to see that the introduction to the book included reference to Kim Kardashian at the Met Gala in 2022. In celebration of Marilyn's 100th birthday, that needed to be referenced, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised to see that too because Kim Kardashian wearing Marilyn's dress to an event as a publicity stunt and then damaging the dress has nothing to do with the life and legacy of someone who has made such a profound impact on history and culture. I don't think there's another medium of the 20th century that was so influential on popular culture than cinema. And Marilyn is by far the most recognizable person to represent that. I don't understand why her book would open with someone else, anyone else.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, anyone else. Marilyn could stand alone, for sure. The last book I want to talk about is a book that's called Marilyn Monroe, The Lost Photographs, The Last Interview. And this is, I'm going to just go ahead and say it, this is the book that I think I'm most excited about because it's bringing together 2 elements of Marilyn's life that are previously unpublished. Most fans probably don't realize that the final photos of Marilyn that were taken for the Life magazine article actually numbered in the hundreds. Only a few photos were released as part of that Life magazine article, but there were about 430 photos that were taken by Alan Grant as part of that photo session, and they've never been published. And in this book, they will be published. The other element of this book that's really incredible is the transcript from Marilyn's final interview is included with this book. So this book was put out by Jason Green and Chris Flannery. They acquired the rights to the photos and they worked with the Merriman family to get the interview transcribed to include in this book. This book will have photos of Marilyn that have never been seen, never been published, and fans will get to read the final interview that Marilyn had with Richard Merriman. So it's full of content that's never been published before, both photos and her own words from her final interview.
Jason and Chris came to the memorial last year, and we had the opportunity to chat with them. They are taking this responsibility very seriously. They are really looking to do right by Marilyn. They feel not just a responsibility to Marilyn, but to the Grant family and the Merriman family. I think it's going to be a really good book.
Speaking of Chris and Jason, that takes us to our next topic to cover today, and that is our guests that we're going to have on the podcast this year. So why don't you share with our listeners who's going to be on the podcast this year?
Sticking with that book, Jason and Chris have agreed to come on the show and talk about how they acquired the rights to these materials, why they decided to be a steward of these materials, working with the families, and how they wanted to honor Marilyn, Life Magazine, Alan Grant, Richard Merriman. We've already done some chatting with them. These are the guys you want to write a book about Marilyn because they have been very careful about how they present the material, how they present Marilyn, and I was impressed.
What's really interesting is they were not even Marilyn fans when they started this project, and now she's very much a part of their everyday life. Wonder what that's like.
Yeah, she does that, huh?
Who else do we have scheduled this year, Elisa?
Sticking with what we've already been talking about, David Wills is going to talk about his new book, and you have been working with him on that project.
Yeah, a little bit helping him with some of his photos and giving just some general feedback. I've seen the book. It's really fantastic. So if you loved his first two books, you must get this book when it comes out. And we're excited to have David come on the show and talk with us about the process and really what he was hoping to accomplish with this book honoring Marilyn for her 100th birthday. Who else is coming?
Don McGovern is going to be here. He's the author of Murder Orthodoxies, a non-conspiracist view of Marilyn Monroe's death. He was in the documentary Scandalous, The Death of Marilyn Monroe, which I was also in. I really like the way he has approached this because what he did is he went through all of the conspiracy theories that we hear repeated over and over again. He dug into them, consulted primary sources, and he was able to go through and debunk them. And he doesn't just say, oh, it's not true. He has the evidence to back up what he's saying. He also goes through and creates a timeline of the last day of Marilyn's life. So this would be August 4th, 1962, because a lot of people have said what Marilyn was up to that day. But you'll find when you go through that day and different accounts, they don't match up. He's gone through that and has debunked a lot of those stories too. And again, he'll tell you why these stories don't make sense. He's not just saying, no, it's not true, or this is true. He's going to present evidence as to what actually happened, where he's getting this information. And he is one of those guys who set out not because he was a Marilyn fan, but because he wanted to get to the bottom of this case. So he didn't have an agenda when he went in other than to find out what the truth was.
When you talk about the timeline of her last day, he looked at all of these different books and did a compare and contrast. Every single book is giving a different account of Marilyn's final day. And it just goes to show nobody has all the information. Nobody has all the facts. Nobody knows the truth around her final day. Everybody has come up with different theories, different timelines, and he presents all of the information about the conspiracies with just rationale, with data, and with facts. And when you consider all of these conspiracies through the lens that he presents, you realize, he's right. A lot of this stuff just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. And you and I both know, Elisa, that this is a really big topic. a lot of people really believe that there was foul play with
Hmm.
Marilyn's death. But I encourage everybody to read this book. It's online. You can go through and read all the information for yourself. The book is out of print, so you can't buy a copy anymore. I'm really looking forward to talking with him and just learning more about how he got into this project, what methods he used, and what his conclusions are. He's a great source of information just based on all of the research. And he wasn't a Marilyn fan. He just really sat down and started going through the details.
Yeah, no agenda.
Hmm.
He's not emotional about it, except that, like a normal person, I think he is really upset that so many falsehoods about a human being have been spread.
Yeah. You know, another really good source of information, and I'm getting a little bit off topic here, is the 1982 police report into the investigation around Marilyn Monroe's death. If you weren't aware, as a listener and as a fan, the LAPD reopened the investigation into Marilyn's death in 1982, 20 years after she passed away. Elisa and I both have the report. We've read it. And
Mhm.
I just realized recently that report isn't public anywhere. I searched for it online. You cannot find it anywhere. I have made the decision that I'm going to publish it on my website because I think people need to have this source of information so that they can see everything the police did as part of the investigation. One thing that I found astounding, I don't know if this affected you, Elisa, or if this struck you the way that it struck me, the number of times that they interviewed Robert Slotzer and Jean Carmen blew my mind. They are proven discounted liars. But yet
Yeah.
the LAPD still interviewed them numerous times. And of course, information that was provided is bogus. They validated each other as being part of Marilyn's life. But recall that Robert Slotzer said Marilyn and he got married in 1953 while she was dating Joe DiMaggio. And the date that he gave for them having traveled to Mexico to get married, she was actually in LA shopping. There's evidence in the form of a canceled bank check that she wrote. So there's no way that she could have driven all the way to Mexico to get married and then come back and just do shopping. Like those things just don't align.
Not only that, there's a picture of her at a very public event that same day or that same weekend. So she was definitely not in Mexico. She was shopping in Beverly Hills and she attended an event in Los Angeles. So she was very much in town. What they didn't anticipate was that people like you and me and Don McGovern would go back and fact check everything that they're saying and pull the actual documents.
And like I said, she was dating Joe DiMaggio at the time. So she's dating Joe DiMaggio, and I'm just going to run and go marry this guy, Robert Slotzer. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll be publishing the full police report, and it's what, 682 pages?
And by the way, if you want to read the FBI files, those are available online.
They are online. They even have documents as part of the files that they say fully this is unsubstantiated, but yet people still believe. And it's so interesting, Elisa, you and I have talked so often in the past about why people are so caught up in conspiracy theories. They really just want to believe these conspiracies. So it's really interesting. We've talked too about, in a way, people are doing a bit of a disservice to Marilyn by not giving her the grace or the space to having passed the way that she passed or the way that we believe that she passed by just promoting these conspiracies and believing in them. So it's a whole other topic for a whole other podcast that we'll get to someday. And I really got off topic there, but we were talking about the people we're going to have on the podcast this year.
We do have someone who actually knew Marilyn coming on the podcast, James Haspiel. He was a young fan in New York, and Marilyn made friends with a few young fans in New York. There was a group called the Monroe Six, and they would follow her everywhere, take pictures of her with her. She would sign things for him. James was another one of those fans. He wasn't technically part of the Six, but he was adjacent to them because he was one of those fans who was just always around. They were young people who admired her, and she liked them. So she allowed them to follow her to events. They were very kind to her, and she responded with warmth. They would take pictures.
She signed the pictures. They would bring them back. She would sign them.
Yeah. It was a very cute relationship she had with some of these young people in New York. And James Haspiel was one of those people. There are pictures of them together. There's home movies of them together. And he's 87 years old. And this is very cool. You recently met with him.
Yes, I did. So the story goes James reached out to me. He goes by Jim now. Jim reached out to me in October last year, and we've been talking on the phone, and I just scheduled a trip to go visit him. So I got a chance to meet with him in January, just last month, and spend some time with him in his home. And he gives new meaning, new definition to the phrase superfan. It's really incredible to spend some time with someone who was part of Marilyn's life for a period of about 8 years. There are countless photos of the two of them together. And as you mentioned, there's film footage of the two of them together. And one of the things that he did that I absolutely loved was he brought out photos that he had that had been taken of Marilyn, and then he pointed to himself in the crowd. And I didn't realize that he was in the crowd. So, for example, at the Italian consulate in New York, when she received the David de Donatello Award, he pointed out that he was in the crowd taking film footage of her, and he pointed right to himself, and he was just a couple of feet away from Marilyn standing behind her taking footage. So just had a really interesting time with him, and I got a chance to do a little bit of a mini interview, him and me talking. And so we'll be sharing that as part of the podcast, but we'll be interviewing him again, you and I together for the podcast. And so we're going to get that scheduled, and he's looking forward to that as well.
I'm looking forward to talking to him because he was one of those guys who, when you and I were growing up, he published some books and I have those. So he's a celebrity to me in a way.
I took all 3 of the books with me, and he signed all 3 of them for me. Yeah, it was a pretty incredible experience. I think that something that I often reflect on as part of whatever journey this is that I'm on for the last 25 years is really the incredible opportunities and experiences that have presented themselves to me. And this is just one of them, just being able to spend time with James Haspiel. I'm not even sure most people realize he's still alive. He is 87 years old, and he'll be turning 88 this year. But he is going strong and just an amazing person to sit and talk to. And I flipped through his books and I said, where was this photo taken? Where was that photo taken? And he knew exactly where to point me to for where photos were taken of Marilyn and him together. And I think one thing maybe some people don't realize is just how close the Monroe Six and Jim were. He stayed in contact with them throughout the rest of their lives. And one of them was actually his son's godson, or stood up with him at his wedding. I can't remember which, but that'll come out in the podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing experience.
Like we were touching on earlier, Marilyn has really been a huge influence in my life from starting this tour, and now it's turned into my career. She's just a huge influence on my life in a very positive way, I might add.
For sure. I think that brings us to the end of this episode of All Things Marilyn. Anything else, Elisa, that you think we need to cover, or was that enough?
I think that's good.
I think that is good. There is a lot more, I'm sure, that's going to be happening. One thing that we just discovered today, Palm Springs is having a big event. Is it that they're trying to do a world record, a Guinness record? They want to try to set a Guinness record for the most Marilyn lookalikes in one place at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they're being picky either. Just show up in a blonde wig and a dress and you're in.
So the date of that is Saturday, March 30th. And we just literally learned about that about an hour before we started recording this podcast. So I'm sure if you look that up, you can find out all the details. So Marilyn lookalikes
But again,
in Palm
it goes
Springs.
to this global celebration.
Sure does. And I think that we're just seeing the start of it. There's going to be a lot more coming when you really take a step back and realize the impact that Marilyn has had. She's just really a huge part of culture still today.
Those photos of her standing on the subway grate were voted some of the most iconic of the 20th century. They're not just popular photos. They're not just on posters or book covers. We're talking about some of the most influential photography of the 20th century. That's powerful. She was up there with the raising of the flag of Iwo Jima, of the migrant woman in the Depression. The photos of her standing on the subway grate are that famous.
Just
and I'm
capturing
not
that moment
equating,
in time.
I'm not equating the legacies. I'm not equating the moments in history and saying they're equal. I'm just saying, as far as photography goes, it is one of the most famous photo moments of the 20th century.
Just goes to show how captivating she still is all these years later.
Right.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the All Things Marilyn podcast. We appreciate you. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us online on Instagram at All Things Marilyn. And if you have any ideas for future podcast episodes or topics, or you have questions or feedback, you can email us at allthingsmarylandpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the All Things Marilyn podcast. We will see you very soon.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time on All Things Marilyn.
Good night, man.
Bye-bye.
You loved on the screen, and that's the one thing that survived, you know.
I realize more and more the responsibility, but you do miss sometimes just being able to be completely yourself and someplace and people just know you as another human being.